कुछ तो करना है, कुछ खुजली है, कुछ मचाना है, लेकिन क्या करना है वो समझ नहीं आता. Then I had a very, very existential crisis moment. So here's what I followed. Step one was just we were discussing about the 5 things, and I did mention about the 5 things that I had shortlisted. Now the point was कि अब इनमें से कैसे eliminate किया जाए और इनको कैसे मतलब figure out किया जाए कि हाँ ठीक है what to do and what not to do. So let me start with the first one that I did, which was travel blogging. And at that time, I'd basically solo tripped across Europe for like 30 days with a backpack and all that. And ये मैंने करा था और ये मेरे को बहुत ज़्यादा मज़ा आया था. And so I thought, you know, let me just convert that into a blog and see how this goes. And so I created a blog which is called finalboardingcall.com, which I think it still exists out there. Although मैंने बहुत टाइम से लिखा नहीं है कुछ, लेकिन it does exist. And yeah, I wrote those blogs and I sort of pushed it out to my friends and family and got it sharing. And I also attended a few conferences of travel blogging and to understand कि अच्छा as a career अगर आप देखो इसको full time, तो how you can sort of make a life out of this. And what was interesting was मुझे वो समझ आया कि यार it's not that easy. I mean, obviously one side is the glamour of like on Instagram and you know all the fun elements and all that. लेकिन असली में ऐसा नहीं होता है. Because think about it, अगर आप travel blogging for a lifetime कर रहे हो, तो out of 365 days, say you're traveling for like 250 days or so, so you're not going to get your friends and family or companions all the time to travel with.
Right.
So most of the time you're traveling solo. Which is fine if people like solo traveling. I do like solo traveling, but to do that for such an extended time, for like years together, that's a very different lifestyle. And it's not all pink and rosy. मतलब जब मैं conferences में गया, when I met people who are actual travel bloggers, I realized how unglamorous the actual this thing is, and who people who really enjoy it, they do. But like I realized I was just attracted to the glamour of it and not really the
whole
the
package.
behind the scenes things. Exactly. So well, yeah, although it was fun, but I realized not a lifestyle choice for me.
So that was a why not. You figured it out for yourself, and one thing was crossed.
One thing was crossed. Yeah.
Moving on to the next.
Then moving on to the next one, which was music. Now, to give you a background, in music, I basically had a 16 years ka training.
It's long.
Yeah, in tabla. So basically, tabla in general classical percussion music में मेरे को training है थोड़ी
Do you
बहुत.
want to tell viewers what is percussion music?
Percussion music is any instrument which plays beats. So there are two kinds of, you can divide all instruments in the world into two kinds. One that produces melody, यानी गिटार हो गया, piano हो गया, etc. And one which produces beats, जैसे drums, tabla, etc. So anything that produces beats is percussion. तो percussion में मेरा training है, and specifically tabla में I trained for like almost 15-16 years. So at one point I did think about creating a profession out of that, specifically creating videos on YouTube and so on and so forth. So I did. मैंने काफी सारे YouTube videos बनाए, as in videos बनाए जो YouTube पे, and in fact they exist on my YouTube channel today also. And I thought I'll start out with a fusion of sorts. So I used to take like popular Hindi or English songs and then make tabla covers of them and then start putting it out on YouTube and Instagram. Started getting a bit of traction on that as well. Lekin, what I very quickly realized was that again, this is while I was enjoying the creative process of actually performing, to make a business out of it, or not just a business, like to make a career out of it is difficult. And massive respect to all the people who actually make a career out of it, like all the people who are professional musicians. Like I literally rented studio and then went out there to sort of record my songs. I composed a couple of songs as well. And by songs I mean like soundtracks basically with percussion. तो वो सब record करने के बाद what I realized is that this is not my cup of tea to be doing it like full time. And so yeah, I realized it because I saw how the professionals were working. I saw their background, their training, and how much you have to rehearse. And obviously every field requires like hard work. But this was something that I realized that I need a lot more skill set wise also. It will take me at least 5-6 years to come to a level where I can even start thinking about a career in this space. So that was the reason why I decided that I don't want to pursue music at this moment. Yeah, so that brings me to the third thing that I wanted to do, which was stand-up comedy. This one took me a long time to figure it out. And so what I did was I started, again, stand-up comedy, I had no background. it just that मुझे बस इंटरेस्ट था कि यार मैंने इतनी बार देखा था और इतनी बार सुना था and it just felt intriguing कि यार ये बहुत मजा आएगा करने में, and so it was something which I really wanted to do, and so how I started was that मैंने दिन में मैंने workshops लेना चालू किया, writing workshops वगैरह in during the day, and
like
रात को
learning how to write.
exactly,
Okay.
and during the night I started sort of performing at open mics. So बहुत आसान concept होता है to get started in comedy, which is that just register for open mics and you can get started. Go onto the stage and start sort of doing your comedy. जो material आपने prepare किया होता है उसको perform करना चालू करो. अब इसमें होता यह है कि obviously like you suck the first 10, 15, 20 times you're going to suck. Nobody's going to laugh at you. When I did my first time, I remember very vividly, मुंबई में मैंने किया था, Habitat में I think perform किया था, and the first time I went up on stage, although I had prepared the things, I had written it down, मैंने सब कुछ याद वाद करा था, लेकिन जब मैं stage पे गया तो and when the spotlight opened up, blank, पूरा blank, but which is okay, which is normal. Although I did just मतलब it took me some time and then I started, and people were very encouraging. कि ठीक है उनको पता है वैसे ये पहली बार कर रहा है, कोशिश कर रहा है, ठीक है, जोक्स weren't landing obviously, it wasn't funny at all, लेकिन ऐसे दो बीच में लोग पिटी लाफ दे रहे थे कि हाँ बहुत फनी, बहुत बढ़िया. उनको भी लग रहा है बेचारा 5 मिनट से कोशिश कर रहा है एक जोक मारने का, चलो हंस दो थोड़ा तो, but that got me hooked like nothing else up until this point. And ये for the first time मुझे लगा कि fuck ये मैं actually कर सकता हूँ. And I like that so much कि मैं वापस during the day I used to write my scripts and like the jokes and all that. रात को we used to try it out in the comedy clubs. Again, do that whole process again and again and again and again. When I did it for almost a month or so, I thought, यार ये ना, this is something worth exploring. I want to do this properly. I started attending workshops and मैं लोगों से advice लेने लगा जो उनके साथ बैठ के सीखने लगा कैसे वो लोग करते हैं. I started applying for writing jobs also at that time, comedy writing and all that. And I did it extended that 1 month into 3 months actually. Okay. Stand-up comedy was a long phase. I did it properly. बहुत मजा आया. उस वाले केस में अभी भी मैंने उसको completely eliminate नहीं करा था. मुझे वो लगा कि यार ये ना है, इसमें कुछ तो है. Although I realized like after like this much time के ठीक है, the art of comedy is extremely difficult. Like it is very difficult to make someone laugh like that. Like when you're performing, and the pressure is कि हाँ तुम हंसाना ही है तुम्हें, and then to do it is very difficult. So I was like ठीक है, I'm going to keep this at the back of my mind at the moment.
Actually मुझे क्या interesting लगा ना यहाँ पे, you had no godfather as such in comedy or not a set path. Still मतलब you struggled your way through it, and I think हम कुछ भी नया explore करते हैं most likely यही होगा कि कुछ plate पे मिलेगा नहीं. You have to go in there, talk to people, figure out your ways and just research, right?
Yeah.
Ready made नहीं मिलने वाला है.
Yeah, and just on a women fancy, the fourth thing was to do was just I wanted to dance for some time, and I like
what
बस
sort of
करना है.
dance?
So like that also I didn't know. Like I was like चल ठीक है मेरे को just randomly करना है, and I joined a troupe in Mumbai. It's basically Anupam Kher का वो था already acting sort of acting class and dance class and all that, and उनका एक छोटा troupe.
Again, no connections in dance industry as such.
I didn't know dance industry क्या है, मेरे को तो मैं तो ऐसे ही जा रहा था. And then but it was a lot of fun. This was I knew it कहीं ना कहीं back of my mind कि ये तो this was never a very realistic option. Not that I was even trained in that, but it's just too much fun to me, and I was like मुझे करना है एक बार, लेकिन ढंग से करना है, full time करना है.
Guilty.
So,
that's when I still consider dance
है ना?
as
तो back of my mind, yeah, that kind of thing. It was funny because I loved doing it. Like मेरे को इतना मजा आया. But it is like obviously मतलब this was it was very clear to me that हाँ ठीक है इसमें profession तो नहीं बन रहा है. But it was a lot of fun, and I guess you should just do things for fun also sometimes.
Probably just picked up a new hobby.
The fifth thing, which was startups or entrepreneurship, but that I had already done. Like मैंने RecoPro मैंने 2 साल already proper startup चलाया ही था, and I knew about the basics and the fundamentals. अच्छा ठीक है ये करना है ये नहीं करना etc. So yeah, that was that, and essentially I narrowed it down to 2 things at that point, which was stand-up comedy and startup. So this was the 2 things which I had. The final two things. And then the question was कि इन दोनों में से क्या करना है? And my deadline was approaching very soon. मेरे को क्योंकि मैंने जो MBA वाला जो already मैंने pay कर रखा था, and I had to leave for that. During that time I came across EF, Entrepreneur First. It's basically it's basically a startup ka this thing. It's an accelerator. where you apply and you get a co-founder there. You get an idea, you pitch to them, and then if they like you, then they will sort of invest in your like pre-seed funding they give, and you get started on your journey, something like that. So I had applied to EF. I got rejected from EF Bangalore. I had applied to EF Bangalore, but I got rejected. And then while I was sitting in the EF Bangalore office, I applied to EF Singapore, EF London, EF Hong Kong, सारी office के यार मेरे को तो जाना है अब. And fortunately, like I got a call from EF Singapore.
Okay.
The next day, क्या ठीक है, please आ जाओ. I mean, let's get on a call for an interview call basically. We set up an interview call. The interview went decent. And then post that, sort of they said, okay, you can join us 6 months later, next वाला cohort में. I said नहीं भाई मेरे पास टाइम नहीं है. I have to leave for my MBA. If I don't get here, I have to leave for my MBA because अब मैंने सारे experiments कर लिए थे, सब हो चुका था. And my parents are also like क्या कर रहा है तू, कभी कॉमेडी करता है, कभी ये करता है, वो करता है.
मुझे यही पूछना था क्योंकि पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस है, when especially you are exploring, it becomes a मतलब एक न्यूज बन जाता है सब. फिर अब क्या कर रहे हो, क्या करने वाले हो, नेक्स्ट क्या करना है, ये सबका कंसर्न हो जाता है वो.
Exactly. And two things which I want to point out is that के a lot of people feel के कि एक तो ये पेरेंट्स वाला पॉइंट, एंड दूसरा कि यार ये सब करने के लिए पैसे कहाँ से आते हैं, ये 10 महीने अपने कैसे निकाल लिए एंड ऑल दैट. सो आई वांट टू पॉइंट बोथ ऑफ दीज थिंग्स आउट. पहली बात ये है कि विद पेरेंट्स, while they are very supportive, obviously they were also very concerned and worried for me. कि यार ये क्या है, कभी कॉमेडी कर रहा है, कभी म्यूजिक कर रहा है, कभी ये कर रहा है, वो कर रहा है. तो हर रोज का यही होता था कि यार क्या है, ये वो है. एंड एट वन पॉइंट ऐसा हो गया था कि आई रियली नॉट लाइक, हमारी बात ही यही चीज पे बात होती थी तो झगड़े ही होते थे. तो इट्स लाइक वी स्टॉप टॉकिंग ओनली. लाइक लिटरली आई रिमेंबर अ लॉन्ग पीरियड ऑफ टाइम व्हेन आई हैव नॉट स्पोकन विद माय मॉम डैड, ऑल्दो अगेन वेरी वेरी सपोर्टिव इन एवरीथिंग दैट आई डू. लेकिन वो जो होता है ना कि इट्स मोर बिकॉज दे आर वरीड फॉर यू. एंड दैट रिजल्टेड इन मोर टेंशन. सो लाइक कि ठीक है, बहुत टाइम तक बात नहीं हुई थी एंड झगड़े होते थे बस सिर्फ. तो फिर कि अब मेरे को ना पहले फिगर आउट करना, उसके बाद ही मैं बात करूंगा. एंड आई वुड टेल माय पेरेंट्स कि मेरे को बस थोड़ा टाइम दे दो, बस दैट्स इट. So I was not staying with them. Like मैं मुंबई में था, my parents stay in वापी etc. So which brings me to the second point, which is that कि बहुत लोगों को ये भी लगता है कि वो ये कि यार ये सब करने के लिए टाइम और पैसा चाहिए. तो which is not true. In fact मैं उस टाइम पे ये था कि ये कर रहा था कि I used to do side this thing, like a job, not a job, like side thing, where which used to just pay for my rent and all that. अब मैंने फिगर आउट किया था कि मेरे को रेंट का, खाने का, पीने का सब मिला करके अराउंड 30-40,000 रुपीज चाहिए महीने का उस टाइम पे. एंड व्हाट आई डिड वाज दैट आई स्टार्टेड समथिंग कॉल्ड IT नोया, व्हिच वाज बेसिकली मैं लोगों के लिए ट्रैवल आइटिनरीज बना देता था फॉर 5,000 रुपीज. एंड व्हाट आई डिड वाज कि पर आइटिनरी 5,000 रुपीज लगती है. तो माई एम वाज कि मैं महीने की 7-8 आइटिनरी बना रहा हूँ. एंड बस अपने को रहने के लिए कितना चाहिए, रेंट और खाना पीना, ज्यादा स्प्लर्ज नहीं करना उस टाइम पे. हम बस आई मीन लाइक दिस मोड ऑफ फिगरिंग थिंग्स आउट. तो मुझे पैसे ज्यादा खर्चने नहीं है, मेरे को खाली रेंट, खाना पीना, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, वाईफाई वगैरह कवर करना. ये करते करते फाइनली रीच्ड अ पॉइंट वेयर देन आई गॉट इनटू EF. आई कन्विंस्ड देम कि नहीं प्लीज मुझे यही कोहॉर्ट में ले लो. एंड दे डिड. And then and then sort of at that point I was very clear. That is one of the most crystal clear points in my life. And it took me, like people will be confused, when people are confused generally, and even I felt that कि you feel कि यार आप trapped हो, एक सिचुएशन में ट्रैप्ड हो, कि आपको पता ही नहीं चल रहा है कि क्या करना है एग्जैक्टली. एंड वो एक यू आर फाइटिंग अ फाइट विद इन योरसेल्फ. एंड समटाइम्स इट टेक्स अ लॉन्ग टाइम. लाइक मेरे को ये पूरी प्रोसेस, जब से मेरे पहली बार ये थॉट आया कि यार मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ या फिर क्या है जो मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा, से लेकर के अप अंटिल द लास्ट मोमेंट व्हेन आई हैड दिस फर्स्ट मोमेंट ऑफ क्लैरिटी कि ठीक है अब मुझे EF सिंगापुर जाना है, दैट एंटायर प्रोसेस वाज ऑलमोस्ट 2.5 years. So it will take time. Like started off when I was almost 23 and ended up when I was like almost 25. So 25 and a half. So it's like कि लगता है टाइम ये पूरी चीज को. And
how did Spenny happen? वो आइडिया कहाँ से आया? Where was the gap you saw?
Right. So then coming to Spenny, disclaimer, my life is genuinely not sorted. ऐसा सब लगता है, लेकिन I must say that ठीक है, I got a good break with Spenny and that's what I'm continuing to do right now. With Spenny, the idea was that because of JP Morgan, I had a finance background and we'd always seen like a lot of friends, family coming and asking कि अच्छा कहाँ पे invest करना चाहिए, कैसे इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए, कब इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए. Always these questions, and these are from smart people who have access to Google and all the resources available. Which means there's a gap somewhere. It's not the fact that there is a lack of resources. There is in fact way too many, and that is the problem.
Correct.
Is that if you ask a first-time investor, like a person to start investing for the first time, it is very difficult for a person to get started. Like It is genuinely difficult because there are way too many options out there and there are way too many places to start. How do you start? Where do you start? It's just overwhelming for someone. तो ये प्रॉब्लम को दिमाग में रखते हुए वी थॉट के ओके लेट्स स्टार्ट बाय क्रिएटिंग अ सिंपल वे टू इन्वेस्ट फॉर पीपल हु आर कमिंग आउट ऑफ देयर यूनिवर्सिटी एंड सॉर्ट ऑफ starting their jobs for the first time that they start earning. We want to be there for them in a very simplistic way, in a fun way, in a simplistic way. देखो ऐसा है, the whole idea is to create a habit inducing product which happens recurringly and automatically. So with Spenny, the basic idea is that every time you make any transaction, we round it up to the nearest 10 rupees and we invest it for you automatically. So जैसे आपने मान लो आप कॉफी शॉप में गए और आपने एक बिल आया आपका 171 रुपीज का, तो हम उसको राउंड अप करके 180 कर देते हैं, and that difference of 9 rupees is something that we invest automatically.
Interesting. So how has the journey been so far?
Yeah, journey has been very exciting because so I met Gaurav at EF Singapore. So he's my co-founder. He's one of the best software engineers I know, and could not have asked for a better co-founder in terms of our complementary skill sets. So I come from like a finance kind of a background, and he comes from an engineering background. So for a fintech to exist, you need the fin and the tech. So was very good that happened. And then post that, we applied to Y Combinator. Y Combinator is generally considered the startup ka mecca, ki bhai, one of the best investors of startups. So we were lucky to get there, like get inside there, and then we flew to San Francisco from Singapore. हमने वहाँ पे हमारा पूरा वो स्टिंग कंप्लीट करा. उसके बाद हमने we raised investment and then we started working on our product, started marketing it, getting users and so on and so forth. So yeah, that has led us to here.
It's been 2 years?
Almost 2 years, yeah. 2 years. Yeah, so चल मैं देखो स्पेनी की ऑफिस दिखाता हूँ.
Yes, let's go.
So, welcome to Spenny Office. Alright, so yeah, welcome to office. This is our office. यहाँ पे design and engineering teams बैठते हैं. यहाँ पे customer support.
I see start with Y.
Yes, finding why with Mayuri. This is mostly marketing bay. This is where I sit, by the way. This is
Clearly, see, come here.
my desk.
That's where Rathin sits. What is it? Dhokla?
Dhokla and papda.
ढोकला फाफड़ा हांडवा.
Yes, of course. तो ये तो होना ही है. And no. Please, camera, cut. Please cut.
On this.
No, please. Anyway, so this is my desk. Like the bunch of other people on marketing side. तो मयूरी के 11,000 followers, subscribers, and 5 million viewers जो ये वीडियो देखने वाले हैं.
Nice, that's optimistic.
उनको मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ, समरी ये है कि यार nobody knows anything and everyone's just figuring it out along the way, to be very honest. And so I guess the best way to go about it, I think, is that कि जो भी आपके दिमाग में मतलब everyone is confused, nobody is very clear about it, but जो भी आपके दिमाग में ideas है या what you think is like interesting to pursue, just write them down and see if you can pursue them for a short period of time and actually experiment with that. And maybe if you're lucky enough to actually experiment with that, you'll be much more clear on what to do and what not to do. I guess that's how you figure out your why.
Yeah.
I guess.
Thank you, Rathin.
All right. Good speaking with you.
Cut and back up.
यार वो एंड वाला वो तो कट कर ही देना भाई, वो कितना awkward ऐसा साइड हग टाइप पता नहीं क्या था.